I just showed a tree man my penis. This is Eric Harrison, the podcast, and I'm your host, noted breakfast cereal historian, Eric Harrison. But up first, the theme song, Culture Club's Karma Chameleon. There's a loving in your eyes all the way. If I listen to your lies, would you say I'm a man without conviction? I'm a man who doesn't know how to sell a contradiction. You come and go, you come and... Fun fact, Cookie Crisp sucks, but Cracklin' Oat Bran, surprisingly good. So, adulthood's a little better than you thought it was gonna be. This is our first Monday episode of the podcast, and the reason is that Monday is a better day for launching podcasts, but more importantly, it was like 1 a.m. When I realized that I had not recorded this on Thursday, and then I needed to record it some other time. That's how out of control my life has been. I didn't even know that it was Thursday. That is absolutely the truth. I did not know that it was Thursday. And part of that is because my week has just kind of gotten out of control for health reasons. But continuing the theme, before we get to that, of days being out of control, there are tree men outside my apartment at 11 o'clock p.m. last night. My landlord emailed to say, we will be cutting down the tree in the front yard tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. And now I can't leave my house because there are men with chainsaws there. And I woke up. I'm recording this on Saturday morning. We'll release it a couple days later because I want to build the anticipation. But there were tree men outside the window in things that allowed them to be up high and to cut things presumably safely, and not out of malice, although that would certainly be the usual reason to show someone my genitalia. I did expose myself because that's my goddamn bedroom, and I needed to change clothes. I really didn't have much of a choice, and I hadn't honestly thought it through very far when I took my pants down. Like, oh, that dude is right there. He's trying actively not to look, which means he saw. The other thing that happened this week, other than, work and rehearsal, I am rehearsing a new project, for those of you who don't know, which is none of you, I assume. Everyone keeps up to date on my activities. Is I took Maggie out for a secret date. Maggie is a girlfriend, also, for those of you who don't know. There should be a Wikipedia entry. Someone get on the Eric Harrison Wikipedia entry to document all this stuff so I don't have to keep you updated on my day-to-day life and all the biographical facts about me. There is actually a story about the Wikipedia page that I used to have, and I'm not going to tell it. So Maggie, the girlfriend, decided to surprise her. I had an opportunity to go to a book signing for a YouTuber that we like. We're both food nerds. He had a cookbook coming out. He was coming to Virginia. It was an opportunity to do a signing. So I got a reservation at a restaurant. I got a schedule. I got a ticket. I bought the book. And it was absolute madness. We were in line for 4 hours, which was not how it was supposed to go. We were supposed to sort of pick up a ticket and then leave and then go to our dinner reservation and then come back. And that is not how it went down. We wound up never leaving. We had wings in the mall beside the Barnes & Noble for dinner. And then we stood in line. And then there was an opportunity actually to go to a late night dinner because we hadn't really eaten. We could still go to our reservation, and Maggie was like, I'm absolutely wiped out, which was totally reasonable. So we went home. And all I could think of was, like, I had planned this surprise for her because I love her. And somehow telling people you love them is the easiest thing in the world to do. It is a few words, and somehow I managed to consistently fuck it up. But it still generated some material. Not that story, because that was depressing garbage. No, the very tail end of the line to get our book signed and to shake Andrew Ray's hand, Binging with Babish, we had to pass through the games section of the Barnes & Noble. And they had a wall of licensed games. So it was like games you know from childhood and hated, presumably, if you were a sane person, like Monopoly and Clue, but they were licensed to be like themed versions. So Star Trek Monopoly, and I am not shitting you, Golden Girls Clue, which is the only thing that could get me to play Clue, except if they killed any one of the like, who dies in Golden Girls Clue? Because if it's one of the Golden Girls, I'm going to be very upset. And also, if it's one of the Golden Girls, I think you just assume that no one did it, that it just sort of happened. Like if Sophia goes, you don't go, oh man, who killed Sophia? You think, well, that's fair. That's about right. The show had to go there eventually. So Golden Girls Clue, Star Trek Monopoly, just laying out there. And I thought we should license movies the way we license these games. And by that I mean not that we should have movie-themed games, but that we should have movie-themed movies. So there are all these copies of Clue themed after major pop culture artifacts. I want the movie Clue, word for word, redone by the casts of other films. So I want to see Clue, but it's the Avengers. So like Tom Hiddleston as Loki, not just Tom Hiddleston, but Tom Hiddleston as Loki is there. He's in this Clue. Groot's in this Clue, I guess. I can't figure out who Groot would play, or really who Loki would play. And you can't replace Tim Curry, so maybe this is a bad idea. Oh, better idea. Avengers, but it's Clue. So it's Madeline Kahn as Black Widow, and Tim Curry is Iron Man, and Christopher Lloyd is Nick Fury. That's actually way better. That's not only way better than my previous idea, but it is way better than the Avengers. It is not, however, better than Clue. Our sponsor this week is Georgetown University Hospital for scanning the inside of my brain and providing me with the following story. So the other reason that my week had gotten away from me was that I spent 2 days doing medical mumbo jumbo, and on Tuesday I had to have my brain scanned. Specifically, I had to have a magnetic resonance angiography, which is not scanning your brain exactly, but scanning all the blood vessels in your brain and your neck. And it went about as well as could be expected. It starts off, I arrive, I'm on time, I fill out some forms, all of it's going okay. I get back there, and they're like, here are 2 gowns, one goes in front, one goes in back, one opens in front, one opens in back. Here are new socks, throw your stuff in a locker, change. Except for some reason, none of those instructions processed correctly in my brain. So I walked into a changing room and just beep, like everything, just division by 0, redo from start, like total error. And I had no idea what I was supposed to do. And so I looked at these 2 gowns, which seemed identical. And one of them opens in the front, and one of them opens in the back. So I figure people would rather see my ass than my junk. Sorry, Tree Man. So I put on the one that opens in the back, and I tied it up. And I walked out, and I'm carrying my stuff. And the nurse comes, no, you got to put on the other one, which was not clear to me. So I go back into the changing room, and I take off the one that opens in the back, and I put on the one that opens in the front. And I can't figure out how to tie the one that opens in the front, and there's a beating on the changing room door. I'm like, Mr. Harrison, we need you. And so I open the door, and then she looks at me, and then she looks at my junk, and then she looks at me again, and then she shuts the door, and she says, you're supposed to put both on, which maybe was clear to you from the instructions. It was not clear to me, and I could not figure out how to put both on. I could not figure it out. I was either just sort of like flopping around everywhere, like a ghost in Scooby-Doo, just like lots of ribbons and pieces of cloth following around, except it's R-rated Scooby-Doo because I was just hanging out everywhere. Or clothes were sort of balled up around my neck and shoulders, just strangling me the whole time. There was no way to put on both gowns. Like if someone gave you 2 halves of a shirt and said put both on. Okay, actually maybe that sort of makes sense. I mean, why 2 halves of a shirt? Why not, a tasteful bathrobe with maybe the logo of the hospital and like thick taffeta with the option, here's an idea, Georgetown University Hospital, big, thick, cottony bathrobe, right? Your logo tattooed on it and made to look like real good, like embroidered and like all those curly Q's, when you do the letters of the curly Q's, do that. So it really conveys status. And a big, thick sash to tie it all off. And maybe like a cup of coffee for everyone. And some donuts laid out. And then, not only is that nicer for your patients, but then, you pay $50 and you take the bathrobe home. So, additional source of revenue for you there. You can take that idea and run away with it. They didn't. Instead, they had me as a Scooby-Doo Dick Ghost, and they walked me over to a chair to put in the IV so that I could get contrast inserted, and that is when the day went from good to great, because they would poke me with a needle, and then they would walk me over to an area because someone from the emergency room needed an MRI, and then I'd have to wait, and they'd come back, and they'd prepare to poke me with a needle again, and then they would repeat this process, because I guess there were a lot of emergencies that day. And while all of this is going on, this just sort of situation normal, constant delays, they keep looking at this piece of paper and checking this computer, and doctors and nurses and technicians and radiology techs are asking questions, and they come over and they finally say, "Your doctor's orders make no sense. What would you like us to do?" Which is not a question you want asked, because I know nothing about radiology. I know nothing about ear, nose, and throat, and also, I'm not 100 on why I'm having the MRA in the first place. I just know it's something my doctor needs, so she can look at it, so she can decide if I'm going to die. Finally, it is determined that she has asked my ENT. She's requested some tests with contrast, some without. The doctors don't understand, because the with contrast is a better test, and I've got to get the contrast anyway, since I'm getting some of these tests done with contrast. So they might as well just do all the tests with contrast. They decide. And I agree. So what do you like, just all the tests with contrast? I said, sure. Let's do that. Let's go wild. Let's get the full experience here. Let's do it all out. I'll take dessert. What I did not realize is that I was agreeing to a longer, more elaborate set of tests than I had originally been set up for. So I anticipated 15 minutes inside of the MRI machine. What they do is they take you in, they lay you down, they chain you in like Hannibal Lecter, they give you a panic button, and then, once you can't move, they say, and so you'll be in there a little more than an hour, at which point I immediately begin freaking out. And then they asked me the question, what FM radio station would you like pumped in? Now, this is not a thing I had considered. I didn't honestly do my research. But apparently, it's loud, which I knew. But they can give you headphones, earplugs to protect your ears, and then headphones for some additional noise to cover the noise. And they could tune it to any FM radio station I wanted. But I hadn't thought about it. I don't know any FM radio stations off the top of my head, except for 94.3 Wowdy Tacoma Park, which I broadcast on, but does not reach the Georgetown University Hospital consistently. And I wasn't sure I wanted to listen to, old shows of myself while strapped into a machine that was scanning the inside of my me. That seemed like a little much. So I said the thing that I say, like if I'm in a lift, which is, yeah, NPR is fine. They strap you in, and then they clamp your head so that you can't move. Warning, do not move is what they tell you. You absolutely cannot move. But then they've got a series of vices that they, pack things in to clamp your head down like they're trying to pop your skull like it's a zit. They slide me into the machine, and then the tests begin, which sounds exactly like a printer running out of ink. If the printer were 34 feet tall and you were somehow trapped inside it. It is this horrific, scanning, punching noise that sounds like the machine is about to collapse around you. I'm closing my eyes and I'm doing my breathing exercises, and I'm trying to not even look at how tightly enclosed I am in this little space, because if I look at how tightly enclosed I am, I'll start to freak out about how small the space is. So I just have to close my eyes the whole time and never look, and imagine myself suspended in a dark sea of peace, even as this machine is clanking around me. And that's when they say, "Mr. Harrison, we're turning on the radio." And I listen to an hour of the impeachment trial on NPR. Not the classical music I was expecting. Not the vapid, smooth, and smarmy talk radio that I was willing to tolerate. No, I hear Jay Sekulow droning on and on for 60 minutes. It was full Ludovico technique. I was being reprogrammed. BT Dubs asterisk. And that, if you're hearing a noise right now, that's the fucking chainsaws from the tree man outside. They changed my brain. They literally put chemicals in my brain, put energy, radio waves, magnetic flow through my skull while slamming propaganda into my ear. I'm not sure, like, if I'm the Manchurian Candidate now, like, have they put anything else in there? I was totally disconnected from reality the entire time, because I had to be. There was just this words, you know, the president, the president, the president, the president, the president, the president, oh, for an hour. It was not the most pleasant day of my life. Afterwards, I ordered Shake Shack to make myself feel better. I got a milkshake. They screwed up my order, and I got 2 sets of French fries instead of a milkshake. And that was my week. I hope you've enjoyed Eric Harrison, a podcast by, for, and about Eric Harrison. And we're going to leave you with the theme song. Come, chameleon. You come and go. You come and